Hello, 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 ladies. I'm going to tell you right now that we are not going to have enough time to hear what our special guest has to share with us because she has so much to offer us and so much to share. But we're going to get as much as we can in our 30 minutes. So we're going to get started in just a moment. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. I just want you to know that we have a very special guest. Her name is Farzana Doctor, and I'm going to tell you that you never know what life or who life will bring your life. And I have just been blessed just having had an opportunity to talk to her, to read some of her literary works, and to just get to know her a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to start talking because, whew, I'm telling you. I have a friend who used to say, honey, baby, this is going to be a fabulous, fabulous time that we're going to spend together. So, Farzana is a Toronto based author. That's Toronto, Canada. She's an activist and she's a registered social worker. And she works with individuals, couples, and families, and she's done so since 1993. She has written 4 critically acclaimed novels, and her latest is 7 right here. I have a copy of it, you all. It is a fabulous read. You've got to get it. This novel was described by Ms. Magazine as fully feminist and ambitiously bold. And it is very bold. And it's been chosen for multiple 2020 best book lists. And it's been on the short list for the Trillium and Evergreen Awards. And she can tell us a little bit about what those awards are. She has a new poetry collection that's set to be released in spring, and you can pre-order it if you like. And we're gonna give you where you can go to do so. And that poetry collection is You Still Look the Same. Now, the title of it resonates with me because some friends have looked at me. They saw a picture of me and they saw my gray hair and they said, she looks the same except for the hair. So I think many of us can relate to this. You still look the same. Farzana is also the Mossy behind Dear Mossy. And I'm going just a point of disclosure. I mispronounced that. She corrected me. And it means auntie. Is that correct, Farzana?
That's right. That's right,
It means
Marcelin.
auntie. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's also here to share us a hack with us, share some stress hacks with us. And she did share one with me, but I'll let her share it with you and we'll give you a link so you can see a demonstration of it. Farzana Doctor, thank you for being with me today, Farzana.
Oh, thank you for asking me. It's lovely. And I've been watching all of the weeks as all of your guests. It's been really great. So it's an honor. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor for you to be here. Well, where would you like to start? There's so much. What
Well,
would you like to
um,
start with?
I wonder, since we said that this was about stress hacks, should we start with the hack? Would that
Why
make
don't we?
sense?
Sure, let's do that.
So, one of the things I like to really do in my practice as a psychotherapist is to focus a lot on the body because stress and trauma live in the body, and we can intellectually, like, we can cognitively try to work on the stress, and it's obviously very helpful, but we sometimes neglect the body. So, this is one technique that comes from energy psychology, but
Mm.
uses the body. So, it's called the Thymus Thump. Lots of people might have heard about it, but it was new to me even a couple of years ago. So, I'd love to share it. So, the thymus is but right about here. So there, it's just in the middle of your chest, and you just
Mhm.
thump it, like lightly tap on it a few times. You can add some breathing, like long exhalation. Maybe people could try it while I'm
Mhm.
showing it. The other thing is you can add a little laughter yoga to it, so you can go ha 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 ha. You can also thump while remembering or thinking about something or someone you love. So, a beloved
Mhm.
pet, a person, anything you're grateful for. And this is the part of the body that really is responsible for our immune system. It's also sometimes called the happiness point. And so
Mhm.
when I'm feeling a little slumpy, like my energy has kind of drained, I will tap here and it grounds me back into my body and brings me some energy. So
Mhm.
that's my one hack. I've got others if we have time, but that's one of my favorites.
Great. Now,
Mhm.
Farzana shared with us a YouTube video. So write this down. And what I will also do, I will also make sure that I post it. When I post the replay, I'll post this as a way for you all. If you need some additional instructions, you can look at the video because I tried this yesterday and
Mm.
it was very calming to me. It's like, oh, I love this.
Yes.
It's very
Yes,
calming.
because sometimes we're just, we're in the middle of our day, some stressful thing happens, we're not conscious or we are conscious of it, and then we shift out of our window, that window of capacity, window of tolerance, and we need something fast to just bring us back.
Mhm, mhm. So
Mhm.
it's a fabulous tool, you all. So you want to try it. If you've noticed, I was doing it as well while she was explaining it.
Mhm.
Farzana, you are a therapist you work half time as a therapist and half time as an author. I know
Mhm.
that can be, there's a lot of juggling there. How are
Yeah.
you able to do that? What kinds of things do you do to help yourself stay in balance?
And it was a work in progress. When I first started writing, I would steal 45 minutes here and there, and I had a more than full-time job. I worked at a hospital, managed a
Mhm,
couple of programs. It was a lot. But over time, I found a way, and mostly it's by working in private practice where I get to control my time. So my mornings are for my writing life, the afternoons are for my clients. And just kind of staying as true as possible to that schedule really helps me. So I very rarely will book clients in the mornings, only in very rare situations. The other thing that I've managed to do is on Fridays, I will often not see clients. That will be half self care, half writing day, half like catching up with maybe personal appointments if I have to go
mhm,
see the doctor or something. So also giving myself extra leeway. And this came I was only able to do this a bit later on in life. In my early days, I was, a little bit more preoccupied with paying bills and all of that. So it's probably been in the last, 5-ish years that I've really been able to stick with my half-half schedule.
mhm. I know that some of our viewers um, they have side hustles that they're trying to juggle. They have families that they're trying to juggle.
Mhm.
How are you able? I heard you say that you dedicate time for self care. What are some suggestions that you can give to some of our viewers for
Mhm.
establishing a set time or at least making sure they can work self care into their regular routine?
Yeah, it wasn't until I hit perimenopause that I really made self-care integrated in my life.
Mhm.
Before it was kind of like something I would add to the schedule. It was something I was trying to off my list, and sometimes I wasn't successful. So, um, perimenopause hit, and that's a time where your body just demands that you start to slow down. So, it's just integrated in my day. So even as I schedule my mornings, as I schedule my clients, for example, I will have a minimum of 15 to 30 minutes between clients. So I have time to
Mhm.
get up. We sit a lot. So
Yes.
get up, go drink water, go make something to eat. Sometimes I do a dance video in between. So it's just, scheduling time where there's spaciousness to do
Mhm.
some of these things. I I am a firm believer in completing the stress response cycle. So what that means is you really got to get up and shake, and even if it's three
Yeah.
minutes of dancing, you've got to like shake it out. And sometimes we don't
Mhm.
even know that we have to shake it out. So it's just finding those little moments in time to do that.
Absolutely. And what you're sharing is really part of what we talked about with Crystal Ellington, and she gave us some great tips on how to move
Hmm.
throughout the day, because you're right,
Hmm.
we don't know. We just hold that in our bodies and we don't feel it until we get up and we pull something, or it's hard for us to move. So it is important.
Hmm.
It's
And
very
we have to
important.
listen, right? We really have to listen to our bodies. Like this week, I had a little back spasm. It wasn't enough to take me out, but I felt
Mhm.
it and I noticed it. And I was on the floor doing stretches. Like it meant that I was a little stressed this week, and my dog was having a little issue, veterinary
Oh.
issue, and so the sleep wasn't as good, right? So it's like listening as soon as it happens, not ignoring.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
And see, and those are the things. It's to me, it's like it's the little things that aren't so little. Your dog is
Hmm.
having an issue, right? Um, the roof is leaking. My thing is always the roof is leaking. Where's the leak coming from? It's always those things, and we hold it, right? We're like we're
Mm.
trying to fix it, and we forget that we do need to step back sometimes and just take the time to take care of ourselves. I've been trying to incorporate
Mhm.
more self care throughout my day for
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
and it's working. I'm doing more meditation, and I start my day meditating, and through
Hmm.
the day I continue. I do more meditation because it helps me, really helps me. So, talk about your newest work for us.
Yeah, so this is my first poetry collection. The previous four books were all novels.
Mhm.
So, I feel like I'm once again being a bit of a beginner. I've written poetry my whole life, of course, but it's a whole different process to figure out how you make a book, how you create a collection, how you edit poems so that they're better than, when you started. So
Mm.
this is a poetry collection of my 40s. So my 40s have been probably the most challenging decade of my life. Not that the other
Mhm.
ones didn't teach me things, and I'm sure that the future ones will too, or I hope that they do. But this was a decade in which I went through a midlife breakup of a long term relationship. And
Mhm.
then for the first time, I was online dating and exploring what that was all about. I had some new trauma that popped
Yeah.
up that I had to deal with because that happens often in perimenopause. Plus, all the hormonal shifts, the body changes. I fell in love, and then was dealing with kind of new relationship stuff.
Mhm.
And then I was also just doing my regular work and launching books. So it's a poetry collection that kind of goes through some of those changes, and I think
Mhm.
it'll be really relatable to a lot of people who are going through transitions.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
narrative and lyrical poetry, which just means that it's kind of telling a story. So it's the kind of poetry that I like to read because I like storytelling. I'm
Yes.
not I don't do as well with experimental poetry, for example. So it's about telling a story.
And it
Hmm.
sounds like it's a story that all of us can relate, many of us can relate to. It's
Hmm.
the 40s are tough. I wonder what it
And
is
no one,
about the 40s. What is that?
I, I really think it's because of major changes, right? Like
Mm,
for me, perimenopause started at 42 and I didn't even know what it was,
yeah.
Then I had to go and research and find support. I had a book club group where we were, reading a book about menopause together so we could understand it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's just about a major bodily shift that inspires a lot of rethinking about everything, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And not only a bodily shift, but an emotional shift.
Mm,
Everything
mhm,
things change when you're in your 40s.
mhm,
And in my 40s, that's when I noticed how my body changed. I was not that cute little, young lady anymore. Things started to droop that weren't drooping before. And, these, my sides were not sculpted like they once
mhm,
were. And that's a,
mhm.
you notice gray hair in places that were not gray. I mean, there are a
Yeah.
lot of things that shift. And so I'm excited to read your work. I'm excited to
Mm,
read
thank
that.
you.
I'm probably going to say, "Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I get it. I get it."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that really shifted for me was boundaries. Now, boundaries are always a work in progress because every situation is like a moving target, right? But
Mhm.
there was something that happened in my 40s that really made me think extra hard about boundaries. I have a very short poem about it's actually called Boundaries. Would you like me to, is that okay if I just
I would
share it?
love
It'll
for
take
you to do that. Yes.
so I have the final proofs in front of me right now because
Mhm.
the book will be available in May, but here's the final proof. So this is called Boundaries. And this was a time in my life when I was really evaluating when my boundaries didn't feel so good. And I was thinking about a
Mm.
friend who seemed better at it. Boundaries. Yours are tensor bandages, stretchy yet firm, holding you in, keeping tendons warm, injuries protected. Mine are band aids from back of drawer, never the right size, adhesive dried up. They slip off at awkward moments. I wish sometimes, especially when, or perhaps before, I skinned a knee, sprained an ankle, I had your first aid kit.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. That is wonderful. But
thank you.
it also speaks to, as I hear it, it speaks to how it always seems as if other people have it together and we don't.
Mhm, mhm,
I
mhm. Yeah, and we have to
love
have
it.
a lot of grace for ourselves, right? That
Mhm,
we make mistakes, we're learning, it's not gonna be
mhm,
perfect, it's often very messy.
mhm. Yes.
Mhm,
Now, you are an advocate and an activist, and we've talked about this
mhm.
and during a previous time. Tell us about your work.
Yeah, back in 2015, I joined a group called We Speak Out, and We Speak
Mhm,
Out works on an issue called Kutna. And in our community, we call it Kutna. All around the world, it's called FGM or FGMC, female genital mutilation or cutting. And
mhm,
this is a problem that is happening in 92 countries across the world, across different religions and cultures. And in the community that I was born into, we have an activist group that is fighting to ban the practice and really end
mhm,
it as a social norm. It's been a practice that people didn't question much in the past. And so we're doing education to try to um, get people to really think about what they've learned and the myths they've learned about their body and sexuality.
mhm.
And so Seven, this last novel, was, a work of fiction
Yes.
to try to address it, to add to the conversation. There's the conversation is happening all around the world. Feminists all around the world are having this conversation, and I thought maybe through fiction, I might be able to address this subject in a way that would
Mhm,
make people understand it a little bit better.
mhm. And it actually, in 7, there's, it actually illustrates the difficulty that even women have in saying this is hurting us. And
Mhm,
I
mhm.
found it's very fascinating, um, because this is women often have difficulty saying this hurts us in
Mhm.
many different areas of life. And so
Yes.
it's I found this book to be very you can see the passion as you write it, but it's also again very relatable. Um,
Mm.
one of the things that Farzana and I talked about a while back, I said that when I read what she writes, I can relate to it. It may not be something that I am experiencing directly, but I can
Mhm.
relate to it because the characters in the book seem so very real, and I can see some of the emotion and some of the concerns that they have, and I can also connect it to something that I've experienced. And that's what I find very fascinating about your writing.
Mhm. And that's, I think that's really the goal, right? When I put my novelist hat on first, the
Mhm.
goal is to write a book that is enjoyable and understandable and so human because, you know, besides this very difficult issue in the book, there's, a lot about this woman's marriage and a past infidelity that has, made the relationship difficult, and she's also raising a child, and she has all these relationships with her family members. So, yeah, so these are things that nearly everybody can relate to.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. So
Oh, I don't know if we've
so
frozen.
here we go. Okay. You're an award-winning author. Tell us a little bit about the awards and the recognitions that you have earned.
Oh, well, thank you. Um, one of the things I want to say is this is a difficult industry. Writing books
Mhm.
is a complicated thing.
Yes.
There's a lot of good books out there, and there's not enough awards and recognitions available. So when you get one, I'm always very grateful because it brings validation. It brings the book to more people so that they'll read it. So, for example, this year I was a finalist for two awards. One was the Trillium, which is a kind of a prestigious Ontario-based award. I live in a province called Ontario in Canada,
Mhm.
and then one is the Evergreen, and it's the librarians of Ontario who
Wow.
are choosing books, right? And the librarians are the best. So, um, yeah, and any recognition. Sometimes recognitions don't look like that. Sometimes recognition is somebody sending you an email saying, "I was really touched about about what you wrote, and it
Mhm.
helped me heal." Or sometimes it's somebody who's read your book and does an Instagram post to tell their friends about it. So there's so many ways that work can be recognized, and it's a strange world, right? When you're a psychotherapist or a social worker, you're doing things in a very private, small, maybe community based way, but it's a smaller territory.
Yeah.
And then when you're putting out, you know, a work of fiction, you're putting it out to a much larger audience and often
Mm.
to strangers, and you never know what's going to come back. You never know how people are going to read your work. So it's really lovely when you get the recognition. Hmm.
Mhm. Well, you've definitely earned it, and it's
Oh,
well
thank you.
deserved. I want to
Thank you.
say it is definitely well deserved because you've earned it. You've worked hard,
Mm.
and so before we close, because we're almost out of time, shoot, we share with us another stress hack.
Yeah. So, earlier I mentioned the window of tolerance or the window of capacity. This is something that we should have all been taught in grade 5. I'm not sure if the developers of this had developed. No, they wouldn't have developed it that long ago. It's more of a recent thing. So it's a framework for understanding that kind of ideal window where our like arousal is at its most ideal place, right? Where we feel safe, we feel secure, we feel curious, we're interested in other people, and we feel grounded, right? And
Mhm.
if you think about a time when you felt that way, you'll just know what that is. But then a stressor will show up, a trigger will show up, and then suddenly we shoot up into what's called hyper arousal, or we
Mhm.
shoot down into hypo arousal. And so
Mhm.
our job really is not to avoid the stress because we can't, but maybe to try to be flexible. And when we shoot up into hyper arousal, how do we down regulate to come back? Or when we're in hypo arousal, how do we up regulate to come back? And so there's a lot of ways that all of us do that. Your intro thing, staying home and playing with the dog can be a way to down regulate, right?
Mhm.
Um, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, my partner and I had an argument, and we both triggered each other up the wazoo,
Mhm.
which is what, partners do on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
Mhm.
And when I got triggered, I had a flight response. So I went hyper aroused.
Mhm.
And so I needed to complete the stress response cycle to get out of that really difficult state. Because if you stay in that flight state, your brain will do all kinds of unhelpful things like, okay, I want to pack up all my things and get out of here, right? We really
Yes.
don't want to do that. But the brain will tell you these, very
Mhm.
silly things. So I have an elliptical, one of those portable elliptical machines, that you can buy for like 150 bucks online. And it's been really helpful during the pandemic. So I got on it. And I
Mhm.
started running. If you're having a flight reaction, it's really good to run, right? So I started running and then I tired myself and I came back into my window. So what I
Mhm.
would say is the hack is notice if you're out of your window and
Aha.
notice if you have to upregulate or downregulate to come back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So notice your window and you can upregulate or downregulate. That's an excellent, excellent hack.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to what you said earlier in knowing
Mm.
ourselves and listening to our bodies. We have to
Mhm.
listen very carefully to our bodies and notice what's going on in our body because our body's going to tell us. Our
Mhm.
body is going
Mhm.
to tell us. I've
Yeah.
put up Farzana's link tree. You all make sure you write down her link tree because when you go to this site, it's going to tell you a lot of things about her. It's going to give you a lot of links to her website, to her books, to Dear Mossy. You will just see all kinds of things there. So make sure you take this down. Also, I shared with you that I have several of her works. I've also pre ordered her poetry work. Remember, it's called You Still Look the Same. I love that title. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Um, but when you go to dundern.com, and that is her publisher, you will get 25% off if you use this code, Doctor25. You'll get 25% off any work that you order. And again, I'm a fan. I hope you all can hear that in my voice. I am a fan. I'm just a fan of hers. I
Thank you
love
so
her
much.
writing style. And I just think she's a wonderful, wonderful person. You all, so I want you to go to Dundern and look at what she has because You will enjoy it. Alice is listening in from
Yay.
Ohio. That's my home state. Um, she's listening in from Ohio. And also, Pamela Burton Johnson
Mm.
has given us thumbs up. It's a wonderful, wonderful time. So again, make sure you go and take a look um, at Dundern, and also um, take down the link tree and learn some more. Learn about Farzana. Farzana, do you
Thank you
have
so much.
anything? I hate that we only have 30 minutes. But I hope that you will come back soon. It's soon.
I would
I
love to.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
Maybe
I hope one day, when, things change a little bit in our world, I'd really like to take a road trip and come and visit you one day and meet you in person. That'd be so much
same
fun.
here. Same here
Mhm.
because I love Toronto, Canada. I haven't been
Mm.
in a number of years. I'd love to come there. So you're
Come.
welcome to come to St. Simon's and hit the beach if you like the beach.
Mhm.
It is beautiful here. So you can come and check out Southeast Georgia, the salt marshes. I don't know if you like shellfish, but we can get it off the boat. So
I would love to come to Southeast Georgia.
yes, you are very welcome. I look forward to it. So
Mm.
we're going to talk about that.
Mhm.
I'd love to show you around. We'd have a great time. Allison also says hello. So Allison is in Ohio and she's saying hello as well. These are some of the ladies who have um, have been joining us throughout our Get Through the Holidays Without Losing It series. We are out of time, and again, I hate it. Farzana, I want to thank you so much for
Mhm.
taking the time to spend time with us today. Um, like I said, I am a fan. I
Mhm.
love your works, and as a fellow social worker, I am so proud. I'm so proud to say that we are colleagues.
Mm.
It just
Yeah,
it's a
likewise.
wonderful thing. Yes, it's definitely a wonderful thing. So, ladies, gents, I'm glad you're with us. We'll be back. I'll be back next week, but I won't have any more guests for Get Through the Holidays Without Losing It. But that does not mean I won't have something special for you. I will definitely have something special for you again next week as we get through this holiday season. I also want to, before I end, I want to also say that these last couple of years have been very difficult for all of us. We've not been able to spend time with our families and our loved ones. And it just seems like
Mm.
the world is imploding right before us. But we can and we do have the power to overcome a lot of the things that we're seeing if we do it in love, if we extend loving kindness to each other as well as to ourselves. So
Mm.
just remember that as long as we function in love, we can get through all of this stuff, no matter what it is. That's it for now. I'm Marcelyn Bailey. As always, take good care.